Hi, welcome to volume 1 of the Beekeeper series. This one is from spring to summer. You'll notice that the hive is still wrapped, the bees are only just started flying, and so we'll be taking you through with this tape all the way through to high summer with the daily tasks and the jobs that need to be done within the bee yard so that you can understand and see what goes on. Now, one of the things that have always been commented on is that people unwrap their hives far too early to find out what the bees are doing. Now, what I would like you to do is to come with me, and I'm going to show you some entrances so you don't have to unwrap them too early. Now, this is a good sign. Nice, clean entrance, nothing dripping down the front. You'll find there's nothing dirty or untoward about that entrance at all. Lots of bees, and if you watch carefully, you'll actually see pollen going in, which is a pretty good sign that there's brood around. A bad sign, you see all that brown gunk that's hanging down around the entrance. There are no bees, nothing flying. Usually this is a sign of either dysentery, nosema, or even possibly a hive that's become demoralized because they've lost the queen, and so it dies out during the winter. This is a hive that's being robbed out, and if you look at just below the entrance, there's that sort of rough granular look about it. Well, that in actual fact is wax particles where the bees are getting into the hive, breaking open the cells. They're not being cautious about what they do, and they're actually bringing that stuff back out on their feet as they leave the hive again. Now, we did in fact stop them robbing because we don't encourage it. And so there are no bees around there, but you can see an ant running around. So that's the other problem that we suffer from. Here's an example from that same hive that was dead, that was being robbed out. And if you look very carefully, you can actually see what makes me suspect that the queen had died, and just recently. You see this area all in here. This is how caps are when they're on the hive normally, and you can see where the bees have been getting into this and started robbing them out because they don't clean the caps off. They just pull them off and get the stuff out, get the honey out, and then they move on. And so this area here, for example, you can see it in, and here's a bee come to rob a bit more. But this hive hasn't been robbed very badly, so this is fairly sort of indicative of what you can see. Okay, now that's a bit more of a close-up, so hopefully you can see what I mean. They've just ripped the caps off and just sucked the stuff straight out of it. There's a shot of one of our yards with the hives and still with the winter coats on, because you can see the leaves haven't even started breaking yet, or only just. I have been criticised in the past because I've tended to put my hives together, close together, but as you'll notice, we paint all the lighting boards different colours, nice bright colours, and this tempts the bees to come back to the entrance that they left from, because they orientate to a particular colour, and so they'll come back to that particular colour. As you can see, nice bright colours, lots of active bees. That's a real big hive. When we open that up, it's going to be full of bees. Okay, we've come down this afternoon. We're going to actually start getting these bees ready for spring. We always have inside of all our hives blue styrene, which is held over the top of the inner cover, and now that now comes off, ready to go back to the yard. And then we have sugar jars, and these are very simple, and we don't feed a great deal at this time of the year, just a little bit, just to tempt the bees to get them going. And so that we don't want to turn this over the top of the entrance. If we do that, guarantee you're going to get a whoosh of liquid and going down into the hive, and that could be real damaging. So we're going to turn it over there first of all, wait until it forms a vacuum at the top here. Right, now we can put that down over the top of the hive, and that's it. You can see the jar, and there you'll see dripping, don't want that. And so that entrance just fits down over the hole. Little tiny holes in the top of the jar fit down over the inner cover, and that's it. Now the bees can come up get onto that sugar and suck it down and put it to use. This is the hive that had that messy entrance. So we've decided to come and show you physically what it looks like, because it's absolutely disgusting when you get into these. Look at that. Oh man, filthy. All this up in here is feces. All this on the top bars is all feces that dropped by the bees. Here's a cluster of dead bees. Look right up against the top entrance, top inner cover. So it looks to me as if this hive, I would suggest, went right through the winter, because otherwise that cluster would be way down the bottom. So it died not too long ago, and I would suspect it is a queen loss, and I'll find that out when we get into it later. But you see, lots of beekeepers will turn around and say to you that, just clean it out, get rid of the bees and put some fresh bees in there, they'll clean that out. Well, they don't, and they won't, because what it does, it reinfects them. You see, all this stuff wants cleaning off. Yeah, it wants cleaning, scraping down, all the bees get rid of, and then it needs fumigating. And the best way to fumigate a hive like this is with acetic acid. Now, you can buy it, it's from the local drugstore, and it's in, you want it into a jar lid or something similar, one on the top, one on the bottom of the hive, seal it all in with tape so it doesn't dissipate outside, and then that will kill off the spores that are in this stuff. And then of course when you put new bees in, you're not going to reinfect the new bees, and they have a chance of doing a better job. I told you that I would report what I found in the hive that died, and we showed you the dirty entrance, the messy entrance. Well, this is the comb that came from that, and if you look on here, you'll see why she died. This is, in fact, turned into a drone layer. This was a queen that should have been replaced last fall and wasn't because of circumstances, and so here we have the result. She ran out of semen, the hive turned drone layer, or the queen turned drone layer, and here we have a hive that's now finally died. See, this is how it should look, nice and clean and tidy, all in this sort of area, whereas in here it's all broken and rotten looking, as if it looks like an old rotten log. That's okay. I've had enough with dead hives. Let's have a look at some living bees. Now, this hive is one that we're going to do spring management on. Last year it was a hive that we started off as a 3-frame nuke. We got it onto 2 boxes to go through the first winter. It's wintered very well. It looks like it's a very strong hive, and I have a feeling that when I open this up to do spring management that I'm going to find a very crowded hive. Now, I don't waste time building bees to see them go over the fence and go walk about for other people to take benefit from, so I want to make sure that my hives don't swarm. One way of helping to prevent swarming is to give them more brood space. And this hive now, if it's as full as I think it's going to be, will have brood in that box, brood in this box. Now, if I walk up to this, take the inner cover off here, drop on another deep box, and think I've done a good job, I haven't, because all I've done is made another honey super. Because you see, over the top of each frame here, there will be a cap of honey like this on each frame, and I'll show it to you. And so now it means the queen will not pass over honey to lay eggs. That's a golden rule. And so therefore, you've got to put this deep box on the top. The queen won't come through, the bees will fill it full of honey. You haven't improved the brood, and now the bees are going to swarm, and you're going to lose them. So what I want to do is to show you how to do A, spring management, and then B, if my assessment is correct, we're going to have to split this hive here and put a box in the middle. And I'll show you how to do that. So hang around and come and watch. Okay, so come and have a look with me. We'll see what we can find. Now, there's the roof coming off. There's a jar. Look, now we've been feeding these bees for maybe a couple of weeks. And there's a vent box coming off. Give these guys a little bit of smoke down through here, but I'm not going to, in fact, touch this top box yet. I want to get down, we're doing spring management, so we want to get down to the bottom as fast as we can, and we're going to replace that new hive stand, put a new hive stand in and a new floor, back the hive a little bit so we can get rid of all that mucky grass on the front, and then we're going to clean the hive and check it out. Now, there will be occasions we're going to have to switch this on and off and start it again and all that sort of business. So a little bit of a twist and then a lift off. Oh yeah, look at that lot. Oh, yeah, look at this lot. Man, that's a big hive already. So just give these guys a little bit of smoke. Not much. There's no need to blast them out through the front door. See how just that little bit of twitch there puts them down. Now we're going to put the cover cloth on so we can keep them under control. Okay, now we're going to take this off the bottom, split it off the hive stand, and just lift that whole thing, complete with the floor, right off to one side, look. And there's the hive stand. Oh, no mice, no ants, lucky us. Alright, so we'll take that out, and we'll clean this up, and get a nice new one, which we've got over here. I'm going to re-site this so it doesn't sag. So they tend to sink into the ground because the ground's so soft around here. And okay, so we've got the hive stand down, and now we put the new clean floor in. And now we're going to, in my case, we've got an empty box, and we're going to use the empty box first of all, which is cleaned and there's no grunge in it, and we're going to transfer frames one by one from the old hive out into this new one. Once we get it lined up, that's better. Now we're going to transfer the frames out of that into this new box so we can examine each one and see what they're doing. So we'll take out, now try if you can to keep them back in the same place, in the same order that you took them out in. And this one is always an awkward one to get out, the first one out of any hive. So there it is. Now I'll do just a little check and clean up, make sure there's no grunge in here. A little bit of propolis build up, nothing untoward. Okay, so that one goes in there. Now I'll just pull that one off. Now there's no need for you to watch every frame going in and out. So all we're going to do is switch that camera off, and then you can come back to me when we're ready. Okay, I want you to come and have a look close in at this, because this is going to illustrate what I was saying earlier. We were talking about a crown of honey across the top. Well, this frame is from the bottom box, and this is brood. This is brood. There's no honey up here at all. This is brood right through the top of this frame and goes right the way down to here. Yes? So there's no honey on this frame at all. So that's what I was trying to explain earlier. There's another frame the same. This is all brood. There is no stores, no honey on this frame. So I don't want to keep them out too long, so there you go, come back in a minute. Okay, now it's as I thought. This bottom box we've taken apart, and it's absolutely bulging. There's hardly any laying space in there at all. The queen's done a real good job. She's right to the back. But this is the other thing I want to show you for a second before I chuck this out of the way. This is the dirty floor that came off from underneath. Now this is remarkably clean compared to some. Usually they're full of dead bees and whatever, so this hive is pretty hygienic with its house cleaning. Now don't just dump this stuff, go through it and have a look, because it will also tell you all sorts of other things. It will tell you, for example, how much varroa you've got in the hive, because it will have a natural drop, and if you sort through this debris you'll actually see the varroa in the bottom. Okay, so we can shut that out the way for a minute, and then what we're going to do is go through here, and we're going to bring some of this brood up and replace it with empty frames in the bottom, and then we're going to take some brood out of the top box down. So we're going to have a bridge. We're going to put that box in the middle, and we're going to bridge it. So now that you'll have brood in this box, bridge in the brood below and the brood above. Don't just put full box of frames on the top of here, it will not work. Okay, you're going to have to bridge them. So we're going to put this off to one side and take out a few frames from here, put them into there, take some frames out of that one which is all empty, and fill this one back and swap them all around. So let's go take We're going to try and find open brood. Well, there's a lot of sealed, but there's also open around the edges of it. So we're going to put that one in there, and we'll swap every other one. And we'll take that one out of there. Oh, good stuff. Man, is this ever going to be a big hive. She's doing a fantastic job. That's all open brood as well. So we'll put that one in there. So that will give us some. Now we're going to open this one and take out one or two of these. There's one there. See, now there's brood on this, there's brood on there, brood on there. Am I right? No, that's an empty one. That's brood. There's a new empty one. That's brood. A new empty one. Oops, that's a messy one. We'll give that to another. That one can go in there. And then this one goes in there. And we'll go another one. This one will do. You see, this is that dead hive. They'll clean that up. And it won't be long before there'll be more brood in there. See that? Dead hive. Yuck. So that one goes in there. And how many have we done? We've done about 3. 1, 2, 3, yes. Okay, that should do us. So now we're going to put this box back onto the top. It becomes the middle box. Alright, the bottom box has got empty frames in it. So is this one. And we'll find and start filling this. So come back in a minute. Okay, so now we're going to take some frames out of this top box of the existing hive very carefully, because I didn't find the queen in that bottom hive, in that bottom boxes. She might well be in this top one. So we turn that down there and let the bees run off it, and then we're going to go through here and find some honey frames on the back. I hope, yeah, here we are. Now, do you remember I said to you there's always honey at the back of the boxes? Well, there it is there, look. See, now this is honey, yes, and this is open stuff. Now that's probably the stuff we've been feeding them in the last few days. They're starting to fill that back up. So we're going to put this one on the back end here. Now just clean that little bit of mess off. There and there. Try and keep the tops clean, folks. It does make your hives a little bit easier to handle. So that one we're going to have there, and then this one is all honey again. Put this one right up that front edge, right about there, and then that will do us for a minute. We've got honey there. Now I'd like, yeah, here's some brood. See the brood again? Look at that. Now what we're trying to do is to open up this brood pattern to make them use the outer edges. Yeah, so we'll put that one in there and then see if we can find one more honey frame. Usually towards the front. Yeah, there it is. There's another honey frame. And then that one with a bit of pollen in it. And that can now go into there. Alright, so I'm still not finished. So we're going to have a look at this top box in just a minute. So if you'd like to come back in a few seconds, we'll show you in there as well. Okay, now this is now the completion of the hive. We just got to fill this back, but I'd like to have a quick look in here to see what we can find. Okay, that's an outer frame, so there's not much on that one. So as we said earlier, the outer frames at this time of the year won't have very much at all. Very little brood and probably very little honey if you've had a winter like we've just had. So now I want to have a quick boo. Let's put that up on there, hold that down. Quick boo, see what they've got. I think they're going to be full. Well, that's all pollen, which is as it should be, because that's is one of the two outer frames. There being one, there being two. Here's something you might find of interest. I don't know if you can see that yellow. See that yellow on the top there? That's because suddenly we've had the massive influx of dandelion pollen, and the bees are running, the whole hive is semi-yellow, especially where they run around a lot. Oh, here she is. Here's Queenie. I'm not sure if Jean, you can get in close, whether you want to see her. Can you see her? There she is. I think probably we should leave that till a day when it's not quite so cold. But the queen is there, and she's doing a wonderful job. So now I want to be very careful. This is when the danger rises, when we put this frame back against that frame there, because she's on that side. So we're going to be very, very cautious for a minute. Just leave it, let it settle. There we go, back. Now, there's an inner frame. Now that's interesting, there's no eggs on there. Oh, but there is on this side. This side's absolutely laden with eggs. Almost every frame you can see them in. Now we're going to have to, during this exercise, try and do some macro photography so you can see eggs. But not today because it's cold, as I said. Here's more brood. Drones all along the bottom. Now here's something people look at and think, oh, I've got all sorts of queen cells. No, these are drone look. See them all standing up proud along the bottom edge. The bees tend to put them around the bottom edges. So those are in fact drones, not queen cells. There's a... No, we'll show you that another day. So that's that. Now, so far then I've only found half a frame which is empty in this top box. The rest of it is all eggs and brood, and so is this. This is all eggs again, and so is that all eggs. So this queen, I think we just about got this one at the right time. A few more days and Queenie would have been having a dicky fit because she got nowhere to lay. There's a few frames around the few cells around the outer edges, like so around here, look. But basically, and this hive hasn't got much stores in it. I'm going to show you what I will refer to as the crown of honey, but there doesn't seem to be one. They're almost dry, which is, ooh. But there's the remains of the honey caps, look, see them here? And that's the only honey caps I've found. The rest of it's all been brewed. How about that? Goodness, aren't we lucky? I think we better make sure we feed this hive a little bit more, because that's all brewed again. Wow. Man, this is going to be a big one. It really is. So, take that out the way. Actually, we have got some stores. See, that's all honey, look. See this? It's nice and light and bright, where the bees haven't been walking on it. But you see, they've only got about a frame and a half, because there's a little bit there, that's honey. This is all empty. And this is honey here. So, a hive of this size, at this time of the year, did not have much stores left at the end of the winter. But then that's a good thing as well. So, okay, now we're just going to fill this back, so come back in a minute. Okay, here's a little trick. Look, we've got lots of bees on here and we want to get them back into there. Don't just turn them over and do this with them. You squish them and crush them and ooh, yucky. So all you do, look, is just hold that up above like that and hit it with this hand. And there you go. See, all the bees are off. And they're all in there. They're not going to come to any harm. So that's that. Now, before we go, I've got two things I want to do. One is I want to do the oil treatment, which I'll show you. And the other thing is we have to feed them, and then I'll quickly discuss what we've done. So come back in a minute. Okay, now I'm just going to show you what we use as oil treatment. This stuff is food grade mineral oil available from the drugstore. It's the heavy variety, and it's very useful in keeping down varroa to manageable levels. And we do this once a week, and all we do is go to the hive and we very carefully run a line across each of the top bars throughout the hive, only on this top bars. Don't go down below ever, because if you do, guarantee you'll get the queen. She gets oil on her, the bees will then kill her and put her out on the front of the hive. So you oil them today, get them on the queen, tomorrow you'd find her out on the front. So don't do it. Now all you do is literally just run this across the top bars. Now the bees don't like it, and you will kill one or two unfortunately, because it doesn't do their exoskeleton any good. But what it does do, it gets the bees groomed off themselves. And remember, you're dealing with the older bees up here, because these will be old bees. The bees are getting on themselves, and if you watch very carefully, you actually see them grooming it off. They try and get it off their feet, they don't like it, so they end up covering themselves with little tiny drops of oil, which then get on the back of the varroa, on the carapace of the varroa, the back of the shell, and it suffocates. And of course it then dies and falls off. So we keep our varroa under manageable levels doing this. So we'll just drop that for a second, put these guys back in and close them up. And having found that there was hardly any stores in this hive, we think it would be wise to feed them. So there's our feeder jars, and we're just going to dump them on the top like that. The bees will come up and suck that down. Now we put back our vent box and our roof on the top, and then I'll try and explain quickly again what we've done so you can follow it. Okay, let's explain what we've done. This was a 2-box hive. It was full. It needed more space. We found that out as we examined it. So we put another box in the middle here. We brought frames up from underneath into here. We brought frames from here down into here. So now we've got the bridge between these 2 boxes. Now we've spread the brood nest considerably. The queen's got a lot more space in all 3 boxes to lay in, and that will allow them to expand very rapidly. The queen's got somewhere to lay, and so therefore the chance of her wanting to swarm will be very, very remote. We've come down this afternoon, and I think it's only fair we're going to show you a different hive. And sharp-eyed ones amongst you will notice that this isn't the same hive we had the other day. This is the standard North American hive, or referred to as the Langstroth hive, but with our ventilation system on the top. It has a ventilated roof, it has a vent box, it has an inner cover, 2 deep boxes, a floor, and a hive stand, which is the usual standard North American configuration. But you'll notice we've turned the hive around the other way. Normally the entrance is on this side, on the standard hive. We've turned it around and put it on that side. 2 reasons. One is I want to stand at the back here and operate the hive. I don't want to stand sideways trying to struggle to get the frames out. And the second thing is the bees will winter better in this configuration than when the entrance is on this side. So come back in a minute, we're going to open this up and have a look, see what we can see. I'm going to try and show you the queen, I'm going to try and show you drones, brood pattern, etc. So come back in a few minutes, we'll see you then. Okay, we've just pulled the top off, and you can see these hives are not very big this year. I'm a little disappointed, I'll be honest. This is from here to here, look, that's all there is. There is some in the top brood, and we'll have a look when we get there, but this is the extent of the bottom. Not very good at all. And this is the stuff I have to get rid of, and this is what annoys me about these hives. They're so badly put together that you end up with all this stuff growing out at the top, and this has to be cleaned off so that we can, because if we don't, we won't be able to get into the hive at a later date. So really what we have to do is to get all this stuff cleaned off. So we're going to take this box off to the bottom floor first, and then you can come back in a minute and you can see how we have to clean this off. Okay, this is the extent. This is the sort of stuff you get. And I wanted to show this the other day, but that one was fairly clean. Look at this. Now you can't leave this stuff in here because it's obviously not good for the hive. So take it out, have a good look, see what your varroa count's like, and then clean this off. Okay? Here's the problem. This is one of the reasons I don't like these boxes. We have to struggle to get these frames out, and they really do get in such a mess. And you can see, look, in spite of what we do, we've got a real grungy mess here to get rid of. And this is what I find is so time consuming. I don't have time for this, but if I don't do it, I know that later on I'm going to be having a major problem. And unlike some people who will leave a frame out, I mean, the hive was designed to have 10 frames, they will leave one out thinking they've done themselves a real favor because they don't have to do this. But then what happens, of course, is that they've reduced their brood by 10%, but they don't stop and think that one out. So my advice is to clean them. Take the time, scrape the muck off, get the hive cleaned up so the bees can get at the frames, and also incidentally you can do a better job, because it means that you can get in and out the hive a lot easier. Okay, here's something I'd like to just look at. The sharp-eyed ones would have noticed I used these the last time we came out. These are called cover cloths, and these are a European thing more than North America. And I always use them to keep the bees down. It stops them boiling over the top. You get some hives where they'll literally boil over and fall on the ground around your feet, which is not a good thing. But also it keeps the bees, keeps the heat down, stops the bees from getting too cold, because it's quite a breezy day again today. Okay, so we'll just carry on going, and we'll get this all cleaned up, and hopefully we'll find you some stuff when we go through it. So okay, I'll see you in a minute. We're going to show you some brood. This here is all drone, look. Now I'm showing you this in particular because there's actually one guy here, look, trying to get out. So he's eating the tops off the caps, and he's trying to get out. He'll get his way out, but it'll take a while, so we're not going to wait and show you. But here you can also see where one has emerged just previous to this. Yeah. There's the queen. You can see her, she's trying to get in underneath the other bees, and this is one of the problems with trying to find a queen, of course, is that they do get hidden underneath other bees and they're difficult to spot. But there she is, having a good look around. She's trying to hide. You still see her? Yeah. See her longer body? I'm going to give you a real long look. She's actually dumping her head in there looking for somewhere to lay eggs. Not sure if we can actually get that. We'll wait a few seconds and see if she puts her tail in and backs into herself. She actually puts her forelegs in first, measures it, then backs her tail in. She's going to go any second. You got her? Okay, let's put her back in the hive. Now while we're here, look very quickly, let's look at some brood. You see this here? This is worker brood, and if you notice, it's all flat, smooth. There's no raised caps, and that's what we're going to show you in a second. There'll be more drone caps to show you. And you can see the difference now between the two. Okay, just a little bit more, because I don't believe those other two were sort of plain enough. Look here, these are drones, see that? And there's actually one drone in here trying to get out, and then this over here is worker. See the difference? There's a flatness about the worker here, but drone is raised. Now you don't want to see too many of these guys, because that will cause you all sorts of problems. It means the queen might be turning into a drone layer. Okay, here's something else you should watch for as well, is pollen. Now pollen is obviously it comes in on the sac of on the legs of the bees, and they pack it away in cells like this. And you see this area here, this is all pollen, and it's all different colors, and they pack it in tight, and then when they've got it sufficient and the cells nearly full and they don't want to use that, then they'll put honey on the top of it and then cap it over with wax to stop it going moldy. So there you go, that's this. There's pollen. Now we can show you, we've done a cleanup. Look, no bees on the top, and this is the beauty with cover cloths. You can do things a lot faster if you use your cover cloth properly. It keeps the bees down, they don't start coming up too quickly. Now we can do our oil treatment. We've cleaned off the top bars, everything's nice and clean. These frames are easy to move, look, and the whole hive is nice and clean and spotless again, but it's an awful lot of time consuming work that has to be done on these hives. Now here's a bad sign. This was a cleaner lighting board put in only about 3 or 4 days ago, and we have a skunk visiting. You see that dirty, scruffy looking mark in front of the entrance where the bees are going in and out? Well, that's the sure signs of a skunk, and unless you do something about it, this hive will be going to decline, because the bees will be just eaten day after day. The skunk comes back and picks them up like popcorn, scratching on the lighting board. The bees come out being inquisitive, and he just literally sits there and scoffs them. Now we're going to fix it because we're going to put some chicken wire, so come back in a minute and I'll show you. Okay, so there you go. Look, all we've done is stapled it on with a 1/2 inch staple gun. A little bit of chicken wire coming down the front of the hive, about 4 or 5 inches off the lighting board. So the skunk has to put his foot through that hole, and he won't do it. And so therefore the skunk can't get at the bees. But the bees don't seem to mind, do they? We are finally getting some decent weather. The sun's shining, gorgeous day, nice, reasonably warm, a little bit of a cold breeze, but even so, the bees are now building. So the time comes when we can start thinking in terms of increasing. We want more hives. We can do nukes and splits. But what's the difference? Well, a nuke is a nucleus of a hive. That's a small hive, a queen, brood, seal stores, and open stores and pollen. So that's a nuke. Well, what's the difference between that and a split? Well, simply size. A split, you can take a hive and split it into 2 or even 3 and still get reasonable quantity of bees and a reasonable size hive. And splits you can do later in the year. But a nuke you usually start off early in the year. So this is what we're going to show you this afternoon. We're going to actually take this hive apart. We're going to make up a nuke box. I'm going to show you how we do that. And you'll be able to understand the principles. Now lots of people say, well, I can't make up nukes because I've got nowhere I can take them 3 miles away, which is, they've read somewhere. The book says 3 miles, you've got to take the nuke away because otherwise the bees will come home. Well, you can make up a nuke here and put it over there, provided you've got enough bees. And one of the secrets is to get lots and lots of nurse bees, young bees. These are the bees which are on the open brood. Now if you can shake those in as well as taking out the frames that you want, then you'll have a very successful nuke even over there, because those nurse bees don't go back home again. Okay, now this is my nuke box. This is the box we use for making nukes into, and it is based on the DE hive. If you're using a Langstroth, you can do exactly the same thing, it'll just be slightly longer. But this box is being split down the middle here, and you can see here's the 2 flaps. Now these come off. The plywood comes through, so there's no chance that any bees in that side can talk to these on this side. And it's split down the middle with a piece of plywood down to the bottom, and it holds 5 frames on this side and 5 frames on that. And so what we've got is a 2 5-frame nukes. Here's the entrance, screened over, and it's just to stop the bees from coming out the minute you put them in. And then underneath, because we're going to put it on top of another hive, you'll see it's got 4 holes. Now those 4 holes are screened on this side, stops the bees from talking to one another down in the hive below. But at the same time it allows the heat from the hive below to come up and keep this nuke warm. So we're going to go over there in a second. We're going to take this apart. We're going to insert some drawn comb, and as we take out that drawn stuff, or rather as we add this drawn, then we'll take out the stuff that we need. Don't ever leave a hive with spaces. If you do, you can guarantee they're going to build all sorts of burr comb, both up and down and crossways, and man, it gets a real mess. So always, always, always fill the hive back with the frames as you take them out. Okay, so let's go and have a look in there and see what we can find. Okay, we're going to have a look. Now this is the first frame that I think I need. Now what we need stores. Here's honey, look. This is all stores. And it's all sealed at the moment. And so what we want to do is just do a little bit of this, so that when we put it in that box over there, they've got some open stores they can be working on. They don't like being left hungry. So we're just going to do a little bit of slashing. Not much. Now, down the bottom here is a little bit of drone brood, but that's not important. But in here is a tremendous amount of pollen, and pollen we're looking for because they're going to raise queens. Yes? And we need the pollen as the other second unit to this. Honey and then pollen makes bee bread. So we're going to make lots of pollen. Now I'm going to put this in that box over there. So that's frame number 1. So that's going to go in here, and we're going to put the lid on that one and keep them in. Make sure we don't squish too many. Now we're going to have a look through, see what else we've got in here. Now we've got pollen. We need, now there's another pollen, but I don't need that now. Got to go looking for some brood. And brood up in this top box is in short supply. Look at the crown of honey we've got on this. Look, see the crown of honey all across the top. Yeah, and there's the open bit of brood that's now emerged, and they're busily filling it all up with honey again. That's the natural order of pushing bees down, pushing the queen into that bottom box and lower box. So I think what we're going to have to do is to stop for a minute, and we're going to go into that. Oh, here's some brood, and that's not bad, because again there's plenty of stores. Look, and this is seal brood, and this is really what we're looking for. We don't really want to be transferring too many eggs. Look at this lot. Look, see, this is honey, and the pollen, and there's brood, and look at the difference in the two. And here's the crown. The bees always work in the crown. Look, see, that's the wet area. And here's a tip for you. If you go to a hive and you find brood here and honey there, and there's no open stuff for the bees to suck in like this, then you've got a problem. You've got a dearth, and you've got to feed them, because otherwise they won't open this up in here. Alright, so we're going to take this one and we'll put this one over into that other frame. Just make sure Queenie's not on here. Okay, so we'll put this one in here. That's two. Now that's one with some seal brood, but I really want a good one with lots of brood. So we'll seal that one in there for a bit. And remember, they can't get out because we sealed them in. Now we've got two frames over there and we want a third. And what we're looking for is some seal brood. And I found this one just a moment ago. So how about that? Look. Now, if we can zoom that camera in and show you that. Yeah. This is all brood. All brood all the way through here, and actually they are starting to emerge. This is why we want this frame, because it will boost that one over there very quickly. There's one, the bee just emerging out of that one. And so we'll have a look on this side. Yeah, same again, look at that. Alright, and we don't want eggs, and I can't find any eggs on here. I just found one open, a couple of pieces of open larvae, but nothing serious. So we'll take this one as well. So this one will go in that box over there. And that now makes three. And I think we'll go for one more. See if we can find another one in here somewhere. That's even bigger than... I don't think you can get better than that one, but... Now there's emerging brood again. But I don't want to strip this hive too much, because I have got other plans for this as well. And if you strip your hives too much... Oh, this is better. Oh no, that's got lots of eggs on that. Don't want that. Otherwise they'll start doing silly things. So, let's see. So, look at this again. All brood. Goodness me. These queens are doing such a good job these days. That's what happens when you select for certain traits. Up again. Full, full, full. Full, full, full. Wow. Can't use these. It's getting a bit cool. So we'll just cover them up. Just look at this. Look at it. Crazy. Just incredible. This hive's going to go boom. Ah, wait a minute. This one might be better. This one's a little better. Now let's see. We've got emerging brood in here. You can actually see the bees biting the way out. And one or two eggs, but not... No, they're not. A reflection off the bottom. So this one, I think, yes, this is the one I'm going to have. All right, this will make number 4. So we just got to really do a check for that bee with a long body, because we don't want to transfer her 3 or 4 miles away. Okay, she's not on here. Got lots of bees. Look, quite a bit of stores, empty frames, places for them to do things with. So, okay, we're going to take this one and put that one in as well. Now, that gives me a good 4, but in volume, not all that many bees. So, I think we should look for a frame of open brood, possibly. and see if we can't shake a few bees off there, because unless you've seen anybody do that, it's not easy to imagine. Now, I'm just going to find open brood. Got to be one. I thought there was one back here somewhere. Yeah, here it is. This is it. And lots of young bees on there. Again, we just make sure queen is not on here. And she isn't. But there's lots and lots of young bees. You can always tell young bees, they're sort of grey, little hairy things that don't look fully sized. And it's only as they mature, so they increase their abdomen size, and then their hairiness wears off a little bit, and the greyness that you see in the hairs goes. Okay, so we're going to shake these now. Watch this. Got lots of bees on here. We're going to actually open this box up. Yeah. And we're going to stick it in the hole like that, keeping all the bees on it. And we put our hands on the edges and go. And you'll note now that most of the bees are gone. Yeah? So, this goes back in the hive. The nurse bees will jump on that very quickly and replace themselves. But what we have to do is to refill this. And we've got these empty frames over here we should use. So, all we're going to do, look, is take these out and interspace them back in the hive again. Don't put the hive back empty, and don't leave empty frames. Okay, so here we have a nuke, 4 frames, lots of bees, lots of brood, empty space, no eggs or very few eggs, and the perfect tool for introducing a queen to, or setting to raise queens. Now we're going to use this to raise queens, so if you want to see that, you'll have to come and buy the other video. But basically this is now a nuke, and you can use it for a lot of purposes. As I said, one of the favorite tricks is to use it to put a queen into, and then you can mount that queen, this nuke, above a hive with newspaper, kill off the old queen underneath, and use this as a uniting tool, so that if you're introducing a very expensive queen, then it will save you the risk of losing that queen because you didn't prepare the main hive properly. So here we go. We're going to knock off the travellers, and this is going to go to our other yard. Nuke we made up just 24 hours ago, and you'll see we've opened it up this morning. It's flying very well. Now the reason I put it up, this is why I wanted to come and show you again, because we fly these on the top of a regular hive, so we don't have to buy and make extra roofs and floors and all that sort of jazz, because this is only a temporary unit. But the secret to this is to make sure it doesn't fly in the same direction as the main hive underneath. See, the main hive facing that way, so the bees are flying out that way. Whereas this one here, the bees are flying this way. And on the other one, the bees are flying the opposite way. So now, it means that there's no danger that when we put a queen in here and she goes off and mates, there's no danger that these bees will mix with the other ones down below on the other side there. They will only go back to their own entrance. So don't fly them same way as the main hive. You can even fly them out the back if you wish, but don't fly them in the same direction as the main hive. Now one of the things I'd like to show you is how we introduce queens, and it's a very simple process as far as I'm concerned. This is a nuke that we made up yesterday. It's been 24 hours without any queen in there, and it's desperate for a queen, and I'll show you why we know that in a minute. But this is the cage, and if you look inside here, we've got 3 compartments. There's 1, 2, 3. The first 2 compartments has the queen plus 1 or 2 workers. Now lots of people say you've got to get those workers out of there before they'll accept. It's not true. If you give them the right incentive to do the job properly, they don't worry about these workers. They'll accept them into the hive quite readily. So what we've got here is candy. You can see this white substance, and then, as I said, the two compartments with the bees in. Now what we have to do is to prepare this to go into the hive. So here we're going to take that plug out. Takes a second. It's just a little cork. And then we're going to pass a nail, a very thin nail, down through the candy. Just make sure you don't spear the queen while you're at it, because she's running around inside that other cage, or any of the bees. They don't like it. Okay, and all we're doing is making a start point for the bees to be able to get into. And if we do that, then they can operate on the candy much quicker from the outside. Now, we're going to put the queen into here, and here's the nuke. Look, nice and quiet. You don't really need gloves and lots of smoke and stuff, because they're so gentle and quiet. Now, but I like to see this candy go down, and we put the cage in about 45, turn the cage down, candy down, and I've done it like this for years without any problems, so I'm not going to change it at this late stage. And all we do is, so we don't squish the bees, we keep moving the cage and the frame around. There we go. Now that frame is going to, cage is going to go into there. If you look carefully, you can see the bees know that they're queenless. Look, can you? I don't know if the camera's close enough. You can actually see these guys. They're fanning like crazy, and they're getting onto this cage. They're getting quite excited down in here. You can see them running around very, very excitedly, especially down in here, buzzing, buzzing, buzzing. But what they're doing is they're exposing their Nasonov gland, that's in the tail of the bee, and then they're using their wings to fan that smell around. And any spare queen that's out there will notice that and come running. But we don't want that, we want this one used. So, there you go, that's all we do. 48 hours we'll come and check the cage to make sure that she's out, and if she's not, then at that time with these bees we can release her, and then 4 days from today we should find eggs. There you go, simple, no problem. This is the nuke that we put that queen cage in the other day with the queen in, and it's 4 days in fact since we were in here, and we couldn't get back 2 days ago as we said we should. And so we're going to have a look this morning and see what they've done. Now the first thing you'll notice is how nice and quiet they are. Look, there isn't one bee fanning, and I think that's the thing I'm trying to show you here. This is how quiet these bees are. They now have a queen. I bet you 10 to 1 she's out of that cage. Let me have a look first. They're sticking these frames together. Let's have a look. Yep, she's out. Okay, so they let her out through the bottom. All that candy's gone. These are just 2 little worker bees in there, so we'll let them out. Just get them out of there. And you can see the cage is empty. They've taken the candy out. Everything's fine. Now, this is the thing I'd like to show you, is how quiet they are. No buzzing, no fuss. Let's have a look, see if she's laying. That's the frame with all the brood we put in, and yep, there's eggs. So she's 4 days, and you can see the effect of that. 4 days has made a tremendous difference to the bees. They've gone quiet, the queen's laying. Now we can do what we need with this. And so there you go, queen introduction made easy.